As we consider this ongoing war, and we want to get to other matters before you and your colleagues in the House today as well, but given the escalating nature, we are seeing the Defense Secretary having testified yesterday that it's already cost $37.5 billion, with the Pentagon obviously asking for billions more than that in this supplemental request that's going through the reconciliation process. For how long can Congress continue to authorize funding without offsets for this war to continue to be prosecuted?
Well, great to be on. Obviously, we're trying to move forward this week to get a reconciliation package done, frankly, because we have no real partners with our Democrat colleagues to figure out how to move things through. We had to do it to fund ICE and Border Patrol. Now we're trying to figure out how to make sure our military has the resources it needs, as well as ensuring we can get the SAVE Act through the Senate so we can protect our elections. But to your point, I am a fiscal hawk. I am concerned about spending, and I am concerned the extent to which this is not being paid for, and that we need to have a full-throated debate here in the halls of Congress about the war. I happen to be one who supports Israel, supports our national security interests, and wants to check Iran and make sure that we're stopping Iran from gaining, whether it's conventional or nuclear capabilities. But we need to make sure we have a full-throated support by Congress, or we shouldn't be doing it. And we haven't had that debate fully. And I think that's a part of the discussions today on the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, as well as the reconciliation package. We're going to want to move forward this week to get that budget process step forward. I think that will pass, but we're going to have to continue to debate whether we're going to get a full SAVE Act and whether we're going to have anything that I'm demanding, which is in any future negotiations on a fourth reconciliation package, that we pay for the $90 billion of this that is unpaid for. We cannot keep racking up debt, and we need to have a conversation about the war.
Well, we hear you, Congressman. I'm just curious if you could act as our reporter here. The extent that you're hearing a vote count, will this budget resolution pass? Does the Speaker have the votes? We'll ask you about the CR as well, because obviously you've got $67 billion, I believe, here for the Pentagon, and what many say is badly needed on the other side of the river.
Yeah, for sure. I do believe the Pentagon needs additional funding, and I'm happy to try to provide that and support it. But I do want to make sure we're paying for it. All right, there ain't no free lunch, and too many people in this town think there is. I do think that the first step of the reconciliation process, the budget, will move forward this week. That's my bet. We'll see. We still have some votes that we're working on the floor. We need to move forward to try to get the SAVE Act done, and we do need to try to support our military while we're engaged. But I think the NDAA might be in trouble. And I think that's in part because we haven't had the full-throated conversation on the war that we need to have, and have a unified approach to how we're going to make sure our military is strong as it needs to be, not just to deal with Iran, but to deal with China, a real threat on the horizon. We need to make sure that we have a transformation of our military for generations to come so that we are still the global superpower and we can defend our country and our interests. Right now, we got to get through this step this week. But my message has got to be clear. We got to pay for this stuff, and we need to have Congress in the conversation on war. That's what the Constitution contemplates. That's what it says, and we need to be a part of that.
Well, if there's no guarantee, Congressman, that there will be a fourth reconciliation package that may include pay-fors for this one, why vote for it without the pay-fors now, today?
Yeah, I'm not a fan, as you know, of voting for anything that's unpaid for. Right now, I am being a team player to move something through this week so that we can try to get the Save America Act passed through a recalcitrant Senate and against Democrats who refuse to work with us. But I am being very clear that we've got to pay for it in our future conversations. And by the way, we have multiple steps to go on this one. I need to know that the Save America Act is real. I need to know that we have a real plan on how we're dealing with the war. I need to know that we're going to be serious about paying for this $90 billion in the next phase. You're right. We may not get a fourth reconciliation, but I'm willing to roll the dice this week, as of right now, based on the information in front of me, to try to give us a shot to secure American elections and get the Save America passed, and try to backfill our munitions that our military needs, because our men and women in uniform deserve to have the tools to carry out their job when they're being asked to do it. But Congress is going to have to work with the president to make sure we've got a real plan for our military going forward. This is all complicated stuff. The Constitution requires separation of powers. Congress has to have a voice. But our men and women in uniform deserve the tools to do their job. So I'm trying to balance those interests and send the messages that need to be sent both to the White House and to my Democratic colleagues that we need to have adults sit down and get this done the right way.
Well, I'm sure that you're sending that message to the Speaker. And Congressman, I appreciate the fact that we can acknowledge that this is complex stuff. There are a lot of nuances here that are difficult to put on a bumper sticker. I'd like to bring our audience to your Stock Trading Act, your Restore Trust in Congress Act. This is a big issue. The House plans to vote on the Stop Insider Trading Act, which does not require divestment. Yours does. Can both pass?
Well, thanks for the question. First of all, thanks for you all getting the facts right. I do a lot of interviews where people get it all confused. You laid it out beautifully. That's exactly right. 6 years ago, I worked on a bipartisan basis to try to move forward and say we should ban all congressional stock trading, including divestiture, like you said. We worked out a deal to get Republicans united, or at least close to united, behind a deal that's going to say you can't buy equities, but you can maintain the equities you come in with. But you'll have to have the kind of transparency that we require of the executives, the CEOs, and so forth of publicly traded companies under the SEC rules. So I think that's a giant step forward. If you think about it, to say that members of Congress cannot purchase any equities, that would be a big deal. So I'll support it, however. I always have a however. My problem is they added the SAVE Act, of which I'm the author and I support loudly, to the stock trading bill. Now, the purpose of that is to make it partisan. The purpose of that is to score political points. I don't like that way of doing things. Like, look, I'm happy we're in an election. You got to go win the election. But I want to have a straight up or down vote on stock trading. I want everybody to have to go in front of the American people on a one subject bill and tell them what they think is right. And if they want to amend it, offer an amendment. If they don't, then vote up or down. That's what I think we ought to do. But at least we're getting a vote today for the first time, to which I'm aware, on this issue. And I've been trying for 6 years to get it. So I'll take this as a step forward. Hopefully we will see it pass, but then we're going to need to get a straight up or down vote on it pretty soon if I can have anything to do with it.
Okay, so one step forward. Would another step forward for this to extend beyond the legislative branch? Should this reach the White House too? Why should the president or those working on his behalf be able to trade stocks?
Yeah, I agree. It should apply to the entirety of the federal government across all branches. Separation of powers also means that we should all kind of treat ourselves the same way in terms of both transparency and the rules by which we operate. So it should apply to the president on down in the executive branch, everybody in the legislative branch, and all judges, including the Supreme Court. This bill obviously is targeted to Congress. Again, baby steps in the sausage-making legislative process. If we get our house in order in Congress, then I think we can then point the finger at the courts and the executive branch and make them adhere to the same rules. That would be my goal and my preference, and I'm not going to stop fighting for it. Today is a giant step forward. Again, I think Congress is poised today to state that members of Congress should not be buying equities. That's a very powerful statement to say that and by the way, that's not insider trading. If you have insider trading, you can go get convicted of that right now. It's about trust. It's about believing that your members of Congress are actually making decisions in their committees and on the floor that are in their interest, the people's interest, not the interest of their financial interests, right? So if you're voting on health care, you're doing it for the people. You're not doing it because you own stock in an insurance company or a pharma company, right? If you're voting on defense, you're not doing it because you own Palantir or Lockheed. You're doing it for the people. That's what I think is important.
It's wild for people who are not in Washington circles to hear this conversation, Congressman, and why it took so long for this to be addressed. I don't know if this passes, if that'll be the end of the Nance ETF. Maybe that's a separate issue. But I do wonder, from your view, why it's taken so long. Are there members you talk to in the cloakroom who say, hey, Chip, I'm sorry, I'm trading Intel this weekend. You don't have my vote. Who wants to keep trading?
Well, look, I don't want to talk about private conversations I have with people, but I'll tell you broadly, there are two forces at play. One, you've got people who they just want to trade because they want more money. I'm just going to be blunt. And number two, you've got people who believe they've got the right to do it, right? That as a member, as a citizen, they have the right to trade stocks, that we can't limit that. I disagree. It is a privilege to serve in the United States Congress. We limit salary. We limit what you can do in terms of being employed at the same time. And there's a lot of conflicts there. People own car dealerships, people own farms. I get it. But we need to start cabining that in so that people can trust Congress again to be here for their interests. By the way, especially when you don't have term limits, especially when people are here endlessly. You should come here for 2 or 3 or 4 terms, and if that's no longer good for you personally, then go home. but it's a sacrifice. It's supposed to be a sacrifice. So that's my message to my colleagues. You know, suck it up, Gus. You get to be a member of the United States Congress. Let's go do this so that people can believe in us again.
Well, and you are a member of the United States Congress. You are a member of the Budget Committee. So just finally on Reconciliation 4.0, which I know you want to include pay-fors for what is going through the process now, but what else would be on your wish list for an unprecedented fourth budget reconciliation package in one Congress?
Yeah, look, if we're able to get to a fourth reconciliation package, whether it's before Election Day or in a lame duck or next year, I think we need to make sure our military is transformed to beat China and to make sure we're the global superpower. I think we need to restore healthcare freedom for the American people with fully empowered health savings accounts that allow us to have the doctor-patient relationship restored so you're not dependent on insurance companies and bureaucrats and government bureaucrats telling you what to do. Thirdly, I think we need to have actual deficit reduction. Not made up nonsense, not 10th year spending, not stuff you hope to get. Oh, trust me, we'll get the fraud stuff coming in. I want straight up mathematical deficit reduction, a strong defense, healthcare freedom. We can do some other things in there, but those are my big three. And it's got to be actual deficit reduction. $40 trillion in debt. We're spending more on interest every year than we do defending our country. Our kids and grandkids depend on us getting this done right. Reconciliation, we're having to use it for things like Border Patrol, ICE, and now trying to deal with the SAVE Act. I get it. It's a weird political climate, and we got to go win. But we need to do our job, reduce deficits, and that's really, at the end of the day, what reconciliation is for, is to deal with debt, deficits, and spending. So making sure we're reducing spending. So that's my goal.